In Cold Blood was published in 1966 and is about the 1959 murders of the Clutter family in Kansas. It is considered one of the first nonfiction novels and specifically the first to delve into the genre of crime. Although there were other nonfiction novels that were published before In Cold Blood, Capote certainly introduced a new kind of literature about real events. He spent about 6 years writing this novel and did months of extensive research on murder, murders, the criminal mentality, and just crime itself because he had no prior knowledge of this genre. Even though he spent so long writing this book, he benefited in the long run because it brought him international fame and sudden wealth. However, Capote seemed to have given up on life after writing about this dark crime murder novel. He was abandoned by most of his friends and stuck in a bad marriage, and he was truly worn out. In AP US history, we are currently learning about the ideal family called and like ideal life in America called the quote American dream. And I think this is a very prominent theme in one of the major themes in this novel is the American dream, which is something that everyone in the United States wanted at this time because it meant prosperity, hard work, happiness, and basically just every basic need that everyone would want. And this basically was the Clutter family. They had a high reputation in their community and they were respected by all. Perry and Dick, on the other hand, did not experience this and had rough childhoods, which led them to commit these murders. I feel like this envy and this jealousy drove them to um, he even took it upon himself to travel to Kansas with his friend Harper Lee, who was also an author. And he, during his time in Kansas, he was able to capture the mentality and perspective that he needed in order to write the novel. He even investigated the two suspected killers, Perry and Dick, and developed more. Something I really enjoyed while reading this novel was the subtle romance amongst the dark crime, murder tone of the novel. And it was just surprising because I wasn't expecting that, especially from the two murderers. And also that it was homosexuality, which wasn't um, accepted back then. And I think that Capote incorporating that into the novel was bringing himself into the novel as well and building himself into Perry's character. And I think that was really interesting and cool to me.
One of the main themes in Capote's book was homosexuality. In the 1960s, it was considered a disease and a threat to society. Capote was not only one of the first to write a nonfiction novel on crime, but he also included male homosexuality into his book. Capote tied himself to characters by pulling aspects of his own personal life, specifically his sexual orientation. It made him feel like connected to his subjects. He also brought light to homosexuals, people often shamed by society for being who they really are. Because of the criticism towards homosexuals at the time, Capote's input of gay characters was a necessity. On page 16, this quote really shows the bond between Dick and Perry that was really intimate. Of course, Dick was very literal-minded, very. He had no understanding of music or poetry, and yet when you got right down to it, Dick's literalness, his pragmatic approach to every subject, was the primary reason Perry had been attracted to him, for it made Dick seem, compared to himself, so authentically tough, invulnerable, totally masculine. Perry's attracted to Dick and his macho persona. Although we never really find out if Dick knows about Perry's attraction to him, Capote opened the gates to the idea and acceptance of homosexuality. In Cold Blood is a great crime novel that many can enjoy. If you're into different perspectives from like the killers and the victims, this nonfiction novel will be exactly what you're looking for. This book is a whole separate style from any other nonfiction book I've ever read, so I recommend that if you want a different approach, you try In Cold Blood. This was one of the first books that captured my attention throughout the entire novel. After reading this book, I found myself looking into the Clutter case. This book was written in a journalistic style. Like, every page had some sort of detail about the ongoing case or murder trial that gripped me the entire time. In Cold Blood also pairs really well with Capote, which is a movie about the writing of In Cold Blood. Both are easy to compare and benefit greatly from each other.